Hey everybody, so I want to do a quick review of the new Vinegar Syndrome 4K release of Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. I've been waiting for this release literally all year since they announced it. So was it maybe last November? I think it was during their Black Friday sale last year when they announced that this was on the works for this year. And I was just like, oh my god, I can't wait. Naturally, but of course the downside is like, well, I gotta wait a year. But luckily that day has come, and indeed here it is right here. So just a real quick, I'm going to show you the packaging, which is really, really nice. So it has this nice harder outer box with some really great artwork. As you can see, there's the front and there's the side with the title, and then finally there's the back with that great artwork as well. I kind of wish this actually came with like a poster of this new artwork, because I actually absolutely love it. And then what you do is slide out, and inside, of course, is the movie with a slipcover. So you have sort of like the outer box, and then a dedicated slipcover, which obviously has the original one-sheet artwork, which you can see on the front there with the title. And then there's that side, and then the back actually has the art for the teaser poster, which is nice. And pull this out, and then of course here's the case inside. I did flip this. On the reverse, it actually does have the newer artwork on it, but you have the option for the original artwork, which is actually what I wanted, so I did flip it. And then the back just basically has all the details of this release. And whoa, there goes my disc. And then on the inside, of course, here's the 4K disc and the Blu-ray, and then an extra Blu-ray with a bunch of extras on it. And my 4K disc is loose. Let me fix that. I think one of the tabs actually might have broke. So I think most of us know about Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. It's obviously the sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think that's the obvious part. And it came out back in 1986. And I think the interesting thing is it was met with mixed reaction at the time, because Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 is much more overt in its like dark humor and everything. Because the first film actually does have a lot of dark humor in it. I think it's just not apparent because it is kind of taken so seriously. I know for myself, it took me a very long time before I saw the comedy in the original film. And then finally when I think as I got older, I kind of got it. Whereas this one, it's pretty obvious, like right from the get-go. And I think some people were kind of mixed, because like I think some people embraced that, and then others were just like, oh, but I wanted something, very disturbing like the first film. But I think even for those people, I think over the years, they really kind of warmed up to the film. And of course, today, I think, generally, I think most people really, really like or love Part 2. As do I. I love Part 2. I've loved Part 2 ever since I saw it, but again, as a kid, like, I didn't have anything to really reference it. In fact, I'm pretty sure I still have my old VHS. It was like a budget VHS that I remember finding at a store. I gotta dig that out. But anyway, that has nothing to do with this. So as far as the review goes, so we've had obviously several releases of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 on pretty much every format, but specifically on Blu-ray. There was the original MGM release, which did have actually a lot of extras on it, and I believe all those extras have been ported over. I'll cover the extras in just a moment. But then there was the Scream Factory release, which had more extras and had a new transfer on it as well. So this is getting it's obviously 4K. It's getting a brand new 4K transfer from the original camera negative. And it has the original stereo theatrical mix option. Now, it doesn't have any other audio options. So, for example, the 5.1 surround mix that was on the Scream Factory release is not here. And I don't know, was that on I don't think that was on the MGM release. I think the 5.1 may have been a Scream Factory exclusive. I don't remember. But this does have the original stereo theatrical mix, which is, a lot of you who watch my stuff know, I'm a big proponent of always having the original theatrical mix on every release of any film. And the fact that it's the only option here is like, I'm okay with it. So how does it look? So here's the thing about Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 is the fact that, it was, I think it was shot in 85, came out in 86. And at the time, 35mm film was still sort of transitioning in its format stage. So just a kind of very, very quick history. I know I've mentioned this in other reviews, but not everybody watches all the reviews. I'm going to put that down for a second. You guys know what film I'm talking about. So after studios were no longer using the Technicolor process, which I think went out around 1974, around there, they transitioned into different kinds of 35mm film that were cheaper and a little bit easier to manage. Now, the downside to that was that they were lesser quality in the sense that they were a lot grainier. They also deteriorated a lot more, which is why you can have a lot of prints, for example, over time. A lot of the color disappears, in fact, and it's usually just red. It's like a red wash. Basically, that's all that's left. So that's why holding on the original camera negative is so important for a lot of these films from the 70s and from the 80s. And obviously, there's different kinds of film stock. I mean, obviously, a lot of your studio films were able to afford, some of the better quality film stocks at the time. And in the case of this one, this was sort of in the middle. So before the Super 35mm format kind of came around more in the late 80s, this was still sort of using that sort of mid-range film stock. So there is a lot of grain here. Now, I appreciate that because one of the things I love about Vinegar Syndrome is that they do not use noise reduction on their transfers, which tries to eliminate the grain and you lose all that detail and it takes on that weird waxy look. Luckily, they don't do that. So the grain here, while obvious, is the way the film should look. And I absolutely love it. I mean, it looks so good. And the fact that it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, I mean, the fact that, because the first film was shot on 60mm film, so the fact that this one has a little bit of grain to it, I think it helps it almost match the first film a little bit as well. But there's so much extra detail here, and the color reproduction is really great. Like a nice balancing act all throughout the film. I mean, this is just a spectacular job by Vinegar Syndrome. And as I mentioned about the audio, so it does only have the one audio option, but again, because it is the original stereo theatrical mix, it very, very clean, very, very great sounding. Of course, it is stereo, so you still get, some good, audio range out of it as well. So it's like, it didn't bother me at all that it wasn't, some fancy schmancy, 5.1 or Atmos track. I mean, those are always nice, don't get me wrong. But I'm perfectly happy with the stereo track on this release. And the extras, holy crap, is this thing just loaded with extras. So it has a lot of new interviews on it, including one with Tom Savini, one with Caroline Williams, and a bunch of other ones. And as far as I could tell, I was trying to do a side-by-side. I can't say 100%, so I'm going to say almost all of the extras that were on the Scream Factory release are also in this release. They might all be here. I just didn't want to 100% say that they're all here. So I'm going to say at least most of them are here. So that's a great thing, because the problem is sometimes when you get like a new release, especially by a different company, they don't have all the extras. They can't license the extras from another company. So, because I know there are a couple of releases I've held on to, like an older release, because some of the extras from that are not on a re-release that came out. So luckily, at least most of them have been ported over, and I'm glad that they were able to work together there and do that. And I mean, a lot of the great ones, including the the making of. It's like 85 minutes or something. It's basically like a full-length documentary and everything, and just it's got the commentary tracks from before. It does have a new commentary track as well. So honestly, it is one of those releases where I'm trying to think, like, God, what else could you even want? And actually, even just throwing that out there, even has, I believe, all of Tom Savini's behind the scenes footage that he shot himself. This thing is just loaded. That's why it's 3 discs. So you got the 4K disc, which mainly just has a feature in the commentary tracks, and then you have the Blu-ray disc, which obviously has the movie as well as the commentary tracks and a bunch of the extras, and then you have the extra Blu-ray, which again has all the other extras. This thing is just so loaded with so much stuff. So if I have to give it a score, let me kind of go down my list here. So for video, I'd say like a 4.5, like a solid 4.5. I think it just looked fantastic. The audio, I would give it, I want to be fair here, actually, because I do need to take into account so many options. I'll give it a 4, but that's a solid 4. That's not taken away from anything. I think the only thing that bothers me, even though I wouldn't use it, but it is missing, is technically there is a 5.1 track in existence. So as just a completist, I would say it should be on this release. So just shave off the audio score. But the track that's on here is a great track, and it's like, obviously that's the one I'm happy to watch it with. And as far as extras go, I mean, good lord, I don't know what else you could want. Maybe some more like miscellaneous stuff, you know, that they could have thrown in if they wanted to do like some fancy packaging or anything. But honestly, that's kind of nitpicking. I really think this deserves a full 5 as far as extras go. There's just so much. It's all the interviews, behind the scenes, again, the 85-minute, you know, the making of documentary, all the commentary tracks, you know, all the ones that are ported over not only from the original MGM release, but from the Scream Factory release, and all the new ones that Vinegar Syndrome has done. I mean, this thing is just loaded. So as an overall score, I would probably give it a 4.5 out of 5. I mean, this is just a fantastic release and will definitely be one of my favorite releases of this year. So when at the end of the year, when I, you know, figure out like my top 10 or whatever, this is going to be in that. I can guarantee you that. So definitely a high recommendation for me on this. So congratulations to Vinegar Syndrome for a release I've been waiting for all year round, all year long. Anyway, you knocked it out of the park, and thank you so much for such a great release. So if you picked up this release, definitely let me know your thoughts. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. I know a couple things I may have kind of skimmed through a little quick. I'm trying to keep these a little concise as best I can. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.